Hello, KittyTheDreamer. Marry me. This is going to be a video response to your video response to Feather Garden Bell on her annoyance on Eclectic Pagans. Now, the reason why I'm doing a separate video to you is that you bring up some things that she doesn't really in her video, and I felt that I had to respond to you as well. Now, this is the second incarnation of this video, as I had to take the first one down because of sound problems. So, yeah, hopefully this one will work better. Now, you speak of the old ways and how we should follow traditions because if we don't, it's disrespectful to the old ways. Yeah, but here's the point. What old ways? What 99% of neo-pagans practice are not very old. For example, take Wicca. It was made 70 or so years ago at most of its start there. Now, yes, a lot of these traditions have taken elements from older paths. They aren't old in themselves. They are new systems, and the same with most other pagan systems that is practiced today. They are not old. As such, what's the problem? You act as if people who are into witchcraft or into paganism are practicing some old system that has been delivered down from the ages. And as such, it's so disrespectful to ever be creative and develop something for yourself. And that's bullshit. I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. Now, are there some older systems? Yeah, there is. For example, within folk magic, we have some old grimoires and such that we know are several hundred years old at least. And of course, we also have reconstruction lists. For example, also through reconstruction lists, they try to use whatever information we have on how the old Vikings practiced their religion and try to duplicate that in our modern world. And that, of course, becomes a bit different than you can say they work old ways. But the paganism that most of us practice, it isn't old. You know how these pagan paths have been created? Yeah, some people have been inspired by something from the past, and then they've developed themselves whatever was missing to make a modern spiritual system. They developed it. So what's the problem if somebody on YouTube do that? Now, you also say that, yeah, but you came to YouTube and you wonder why aren't there a lot of more in-depth, more serious videos? There's a lot of beginner stuff and stuff. Yeah, because a lot of us that practice, we are possibly quite okay with sharing the beginner stuff, but we might not want to share the more advanced stuff. Both because we might want to have that for ourselves, but also because we might want to reserve that for when we instruct a student face to face, so we are sure we don't give out something that can be dangerous. Now, I've also responded to Feather Garden Bells, and I must say that her video do annoy me a lot. And you said that she's so misunderstood. I don't really see how her video can be misunderstood. She is basically bashing people who do not follow distinct tradition but make things up themselves. And since we are all really practicing things that are made up, that becomes very hypocritical to me. Basically, there isn't in modern neo-paganism, that's why we have the neo-paganism, is not an ancient path that you have to follow to the letter. And even if, let's say it was, let's say that our path was handed down from the ages. You know what? I still think it would be positive if people developed on it, walked their own path, changed things, made it work for them. I don't believe that we have to sit and say, oh, but something has been done in the past and we have to copy it forever and ever and ever and ever. No. I mean, respect isn't copying. Developing your own system based on an existing one is not disrespect. Now, when it comes to correspondences, like I told Feathers, they are not unified. If you pull out 5 books on stone healing, you will find at least 3 different definitions on what citrine does metaphysically. There are no great um, uh, consensus on what all of these things do. Because different paths, different people, different traditions have made their own. And yeah, now of course, some of the things that people develop just for themselves will work just for them. Other things can be useful for other people. And I feel that part of the really great thing about being pagan is the freedom to explore. Many pagans leave a Christian background, for example, because they don't want to just blindly follow tradition what somebody has said before. They want to develop their own spirituality. Now, you also mentioned New Age. And I'm going to address 2 points here. One is you say, but paganism is this, paganism is that. Paganism is an umbrella term. There is no unified definition of what paganism is. Therefore, you can't sit and say, but what this person does isn't paganism, what this person does is paganism. Because paganism is an umbrella term. If you ask many Christians, they would put, for example, Hinduism into the same category as paganism, or even Buddhism. Now, me, I would not call Hinduists and Buddhists pagan, but by some of the definitions that are put up about it, it are. So basically, if you look at the various forums on paganism and so on, you will find so many people having different opinions about what paganism is. It's an umbrella term. Now, what you can say is that this and this and this doesn't fit within such and such tradition, and that's fine. If you, for example, are a Wiccan, then there are things that are definitely not Wiccan. Wicca is a tradition, a religion, and it has its own dogma and ways of doing things. And if you're going to be a Wiccan, you better follow those rules and regulations. However, if you are not Wiccan, the same with other traditions. If you are a Greek reconstructionalist, you can say there's these and these and these things doesn't fit in with being a Greek reconstructionalist. You can't say this and this and these things aren't pagan, because pagan isn't one single thing, it's an umbrella term for a number of different spiritualities, religions, and the like. Now, the same with New Age. New Age too is an umbrella term. In many eyes, every bit of new paganism is New Age. For others, every work with crystals are New Age. if you are going to sit and dictate what is New Age, what is paganism, please first tell me what do you put in those terms? Because they aren't defined. They are pretty loose terms. So you can't sit and say, oh, well, but if people do this, they are New Agers, not pagans. Yeah, then please tell me, what are paganism to you? What are New Age to you? Find these things and we can talk. Now, the way I see it, there aren't that much different. There are floating um, differences into what is paganism and what is New Age. Because, like I said, both are umbrella terms. So, for example, all of these things with indigo children and so on and so forth, I will place squarely into the New Age category. While witchcraft, for example, I will place squarely into the pagan category. But there are a lot of sliding degrees there. But here's the point. The way I see it, if somebody wants to define themselves as pagan, they're pagan. Because like I said, it's an umbrella term. It can mean so many things. Some people say paganism is any religion that have more than one god. In which case, Hinduism, for example, that would be paganism. How to say it's a nature-based religion. There's so many definitions. Let me address one of your points. You said that it would be like somebody learning to meditate and then calling themselves a Hindu. No, it wouldn't. Because Hinduism, that's a clearly defined religion. Now, of course, there are different sects within Hinduism, just as there are Catholics, there are Protestants, there are various forms of groups within Christianity. Excuse me, my phone is ringing. I'm just gonna put it on silent so I can finish this video. One moment. There we go. Silent. Sorry about that. I just tried to make this video so many times. I just don't want to stop it even if my phone rang. So, yeah. Anyway, what I was getting at is that while there are different groups within Hinduism, just as there are different groups, sects, and traditions within Christianity, you can still say this is Hinduism. You can put a frame around it and say this is Hinduism, this isn't Hinduism. And clearly, just meditating doesn't make you a Hindu. However, with paganism, there are no such box. It's like it's a term that is used to describe something, some religious and spiritual expressions that are sort of similar to one another. But there are no clearly defined, these are the boundaries of paganism. Therefore, it doesn't work that way. And what you can say is that if you act in such and such and such way, practice such and such way, you are not a reconstructionist. You are not a practitioner of Strega. You are not a practitioner of Wicca. That you can say because those do fit in boxes. What you cannot say is you are not pagan, because pagan is an umbrella term. Now, a final point I wanted to address with you. Something that sort of pissed me off about your video. You said, now if anybody feels insulted by Feather's video, clearly it's because they feel guilt. And to that I have to say a loud and clear bullshit! Saying that if somebody's ever insulted, it's because they're somehow feeling guilty. It's stupid. I'm sorry, I do not mean to offend you, but it is stupid. It's the same as, and I'm going to use a bit of strong language here, please forgive me. It's the same as if somebody were to make a video where they say that black people, they're shit. Only possible use a black person would have is if a woman is a whore. That's the only use a black person has. Let's say somebody make a video and say that. And then somebody say, and if a black person should happen to be insulted by that, clearly it's because they feel that there's some truth in it. No, you can quite possibly be insulted when somebody basically say derogatory things about your religion, especially when what they're saying is bullshit. That doesn't mean that you feel that they're right. Now, of course, you say, but you can just not watch. Yeah, of course. And I'm not saying here that Feathers doesn't have the right to say what she says. Of course, she's a free world. She can say what she wants. But it's also my right to respond to her. And here's why I do respond. When people later search up videos, if nobody, and the same with posts and so on, if nobody ever say no, this isn't right, and express their own opinions, then those wrong opinions just, well, at least in my opinion, wrong opinions, stand unchallenged. So no, I don't feel like just walking away when I see something that I feel is very, 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 very wrong. I feel like responding so that there at least is a response out there. So yeah, like I said, I have not intended to offend you with this video, just to express my opinions. I think a lot of your videos are great, and I have great respect for you as a person. I just strongly disagree with you about this topic. I hope you have a great day, and blessed be.